Text, Jobcast by Indeed, Crafting Your Career, How to Grow Your Role at Your Current Company, Brandy Warwis, Job Seeker Experience, Indeed.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the Jobcast. Our topic today is a bit different from usual, where typically we're talking about how to find new jobs. This is Indeed after all. Today, we're exploring how you can continue your career growth without having to leave your company. We know that with unemployment being high right now, a lot of people may be feeling stuck in a job that's no longer rewarding for them, but they don't want to risk leaving. That's why we want to deep dive into how you can seek new challenges and opportunities for growth without changing employers.
Meet your hosts. Photos of Brandy and Cassandra Williams.
I'm excited to introduce our guest speaker today, Cassandra Williams. Cassandra is a human resources leader, career strategist, and blogger. She's the founder of Career Talk with Cassandra, a career coaching brand dedicated to helping women find happiness and success in their careers. And that's me, Brandy Warwis. I'm on Indeed's Job Seeker Experience team. We're responsible for creating helpful resources and events like this Jobcast for our users, like you. Take it away, Cassandra.
Thank you, Brandy, for the introduction. I'm so excited to co-host this presentation today, and I look forward to sharing hopefully what you all believe to be very helpful information and answering any questions from our attendees. As Brandy mentioned, my name is Cassandra Williams. I've worked in the human resources field for 15 years now, and I truly enjoy sharing career tips and knowledge that I've gained through my profession over the years. Our learning objectives that we'll cover today will be how to create a new role, what to say in your business case, and tips for talking with your manager about changing roles. There are a few ways to change roles without changing employers.
Text, changing roles internally.
Obviously, you could apply to an open role, meaning a hiring manager has a position ready to fill and is accepting applications. Your company may have a specific internal mobility program that assists current employees with applying for different positions. Another common way to change roles would be through promotion. As part of your natural career progression, and of course, if you have a good performance history as well, your manager may decide to promote you to the next level of your current role on your current team. The third and less common approach that we're going to talk in depth about today is working with your current manager to create a new role for yourself that fills a need for the company while simultaneously allowing you to grow. So how do you create a new role at your company? The first thing I would think about would be your organization's flexibility. Here are a few indicators that your company may be open to expanding or creating a new role.
Consider your company.
Using an all-hands-on-deck approach for major projects regardless of job title and role. What this means is getting everyone on the team involved with major initiatives. This could be a new system or software rollout, acquisitions, a marketing campaign. There's several things that this could be. Job titles are not important in these scenarios as much as it is more about the skills, your attitude, the work ethic that you bring to the table. An example of this, and I will throw in a disclaimer that most of my examples are going to be from the human resources profession because that's the field that I work in. So my example is going to be actually benefits open enrollment, which I think most people may be familiar with because a lot of organizations have a benefits open enrollment season annually. So with my HR department, it's separated by HR function. So we have a benefits team, we have a payroll team, and we have an HR admin team. We've got, a team for different functions of HR. My team specifically is focused on the HR business partner relations. So it's more strategic in nature in that we partner with the leaders in our organization to ensure they have the tools and the resources they need to manage their people and to do their jobs. So with benefits open enrollment, this is a huge initiative, across the company, and we want to ensure that it's successful. So oftentimes my team is brought in, even though benefits is not a part of our day-to-day tasks, but we're brought in to help to ensure the success of this initiative. And some of the things that we may do is train the employees on what our new benefits will be, help the employees with their benefit election. So we, may include that also in training as far as walking them through the process of how to elect their benefits. We also may help with drafting the communication that goes out to all employees around benefits, as well as making sure that we're available to answer any questions that they have. Another indicator is receiving requests to be a part of committees or a task force. This allows you to break up your day-to-day routine and learn new skills. Another example that I have would be a previous company that I've worked for, where this company wanted to put on their very first job fair. We didn't have a marketing department, so I was responsible for handling all of the marketing to promote the event and creating all the flyers and social media posts. This allowed me to learn and use new skills that I would not typically use in my day-to-day job. It's always a good sign when you're asked for input on your performance goals, or you have the opportunity to work with your manager on creating your goals. So the performance review process being a collaborative effort between you and your manager creates a ton of opportunities. It's a good way for your manager to understand your career interests and goals you have for yourself, and for you to ensure that what you want is aligned with business objectives. Also, if your manager is inquiring about your career interests and goals, this is a sign that they want to make sure you're in a role that makes you happy. The last and not really common indicator are job descriptions and your involvement in the job description process. This may not be an option for all companies because typically this is already established, like job descriptions are already established in organizations. You tend to see this more so with startup companies or smaller organizations that are still building out their infrastructure. In this case, you may be asked to document what you do for your job description, or create your job description for someone in leadership to review and approve. Another thing that we want to consider is the relationship we have with our managers. So the ability to create a new role can start by building a relationship of trust and dependability with your manager. It's more likely for your manager or company to invest in your growth into a new role for you if you have a history of strong individual performance at the company. To determine the likelihood of a role expansion or new role creation, begin by observing and identifying others in your company who have accomplished a role transition. If it's never occurred before, that's not necessarily an indicator that it can't be done, but you may need to build a strong business case first. Having a good relationship with your manager makes conversations about career growth easier and helps when you are ready to present your business case, which we will discuss later. Scoping out the opportunity for a new role, think about what's needed but keeps getting placed on the back burner because no one seems to have time to get it done. An example might be training programs or streamlining a process. Ask your manager what keeps them up at night. This is something that I tend to do too, just to get some more insight on what's happening with the business, what's going on, what is my manager worried about, what can I help with. Your manager may believe that there's no one on the team that may have the capacity to do what needs to get done, or that there aren't enough resources. This may be an opportunity for you to help your manager solve a huge problem. So just work on talking to your manager more, picking his or her brain to see what is it that we really need to be focused on, and see out of those conversations if you're able to find some opportunities for yourself to expand your role. And also think about how you can create more efficiencies or improve a process. One big thing that you can do, and this is something that I challenge myself with constantly, and that is stepping outside of your comfort zone. Some ways that you can do this would be to volunteer to assist with assignments that provide exposure to new areas of the business. Break your routine and try a new approach or method of solving a problem. And also look for opportunities to practice doing things that scare you the most, things that really make you uncomfortable. One example that I have, just my personal experience early in my career, I was really nervous about presenting in front of large groups of people. I think that's kind of a common fear for most people. It's just public speaking in general. So that would always, make me nervous if I found myself, having to do that. So one of the things that I would do is, again, here's another HR example, but volunteer to present a portion of our new hire orientation. And at the time, we had new hire orientation twice a month. So that would be twice a month that I would have to get up and present in front of a group of new hires constantly. So that was giving me practice and made me feel more and more comfortable with presenting in front of large groups of people. It was also a skill set, and I think this is for anybody that wants to grow in your career, especially if you want to move into leadership roles, is that it's just something you have to be comfortable with, and that's presenting in front of people. So definitely look for ways that you can have that exposure. If stepping out and presenting in front of like a large group of people, like taking a chance like I did and doing a new hire orientation, if that's too bold of a move to start, there are some smaller steps that you can take. You can offer to lead a meeting or facilitate a training for your team, and just kind of take baby steps that help you to, start to get more and more comfortable and overcome that fear. Also, schedule informational meetings with leaders that inspire you, and not just inspire you, but also are doing the things that you would like to do at some point. Let them know when you schedule the meeting that you want to learn more about what they do. And you will be surprised. There are so many leaders that really value mentorship and love to talk about themselves. I am one of those people where I get excited when people reach out to me and they ask to learn more about what I do. And I get an opportunity to talk about my job and, the job and the career that I love so much. So don't be afraid to schedule time, with those leaders. I would schedule 30 minutes and just ask them if you could, spend some time just learning more about what they do. Let them know that you have an interest in what they do. And there may be a ton of opportunities that come out of that. It could be that person, because now you're top of mind for that person. So if an opportunity comes up, they may be dropping your name to people that have influence or people that you wouldn't otherwise have any visibility or exposure to. Also, they may need your help with a project or an assignment that they're working on. So that, again, could be an opportunity for you to learn more about what they do and to even gain some experience in that particular area. Identifying your strengths. So after a while of working at the same company, it's common to feel like you could be using your strengths to better support the business. If you've reached this point, it can be an opportunity for you to focus on identifying the aspects of your work that you perform the strongest. To find out what these areas are, some questions that you can ask yourself are, what aspects of my work do I receive the most compliments on? What am I constantly getting praised on in performance reviews? What do teammates seek my advice, guidance, or assistance with? I always recommend creating a brag folder. So if you don't have one, make sure you create one today. And keep a running list of your accomplishments, big or small, in this folder. Make sure you include any positive reviews, compliments, emails, performance reviews, notes, cards, and successful projects that you've completed. When a time comes to make your case for that new role, reference your folder for reminders about some of the following things. 1, what your strengths are. 2, what people are saying about your work. 3, what are the most successful projects? Where do you have the most impact? And what have you mastered and become known as the subject matter expert in? One other thing that I like to do is to check in with my network. You want to check in with your network to make sure that your career brand is a reflection of how you want to be viewed by your leaders and peers. You can send a text message or email simply asking, what's the first word that comes to mind when you think of me or see my name? This is really helpful because the feedback that you get, and also let me just add this before I go any further, that you want to send this to a trusted group of people. So people that you trust, you don't want to just ask that to anyone. You want to be careful with that. But the feedback that you get can really help to make sure that, that you are on track, that your brand is on track with how you want to be perceived by others. Finding what motivates you. This is really important as well in this process of creating a role for yourself, because you need to understand what it is that you want. You need to be very clear about that. Being good at something does not always mean you want to focus on that full time. So it's important to also think about what motivates you. If you don't know what motivates you, take notes about your favorite parts of the day over the course of a week or two. Record your daily peaks and pits, the work that you enjoyed the most versus what you disliked the most. Identifying even seemingly small or irrelevant tasks you enjoy, such as organizing your email inbox. This may help you identify roles that involve work that's more enjoyable and meaningful for you. Make sure you compare your notes with job descriptions of roles that you think you may be interested in pursuing. Narrow down your interests by focusing on the roles that have more of what you like versus what you dislike.
Definitely. I'll just jump in here to say, just because you're good at something doesn't mean that you enjoy doing it or that it motivates you. So being able to note the difference is definitely important as you think about the future state of your career.
So on the flip side of that, it's not all about what we want because we also have to take into consideration the business needs. So one way to do that, you want, as you're putting together, this business case, and when you're thinking about creating a new role, you also have to think about what the needs of the business are.
Take note of business needs.
One way to do that is to take note of, if you're being consistently sought for assistance because you have a strength and a skill set that is missing on your team, but it's only a small portion of your job responsibilities. This can be a good indicator that this is a gap that needs to be filled within the company. An example would be, you might notice that colleagues are consistently turning to you for help pulling data queries. This could be an indicator that the team needs dedicated support pulling and analyzing data to give them the ability to efficiently make data-driven decisions. If teammates turn to you for daily direction instead of your top-level manager, this could be an indicator that there needs to be mid-level manager support to assist the team with day-to-day operations.
Research roles. A screenshot of the careers section on Indeed.
Yeah, and while you are scoping out the opportunity for a new role, you can get some inspiration by exploring the different career paths or roles on Indeed at go.indeed.com/career paths. You'll see on that page, there's an alphabetical list of a lot of different job titles that you can scope out and see what the responsibilities are and pull from different ones to create the ideal role to fit your business need and your interests. So once you've honed in on the opportunity based on your strengths, motivations, and that business need, it's time to plan how you'll communicate that the new role or responsibilities will be mutually beneficial to both you and your company.
Text, build a business case.
You're asking the company to invest in you as a professional, and they'll want to see a return on investment. So a well-prepared business case can help your manager see the benefits of the proposition. Managers will be looking to assess the cost, time, impact, and risk of this new role. Providing a strong business case is important in order to get the buy-in from key stakeholders. Those key stakeholders, in this case, being the individuals that have influence and decision-making power as it relates to your career, like your manager. If you have that buy-in, you're more likely to receive the support and resources you need to be successful in your new role and get that new role approved to begin with. We're going to cover the components of an effective business case or job proposal here, but keep in mind that the format you use to share this information will differ depending on your field and on your manager's preferences. So is your boss someone who wants to read all of the details at once before discussing, or do they prefer to glance at an overview and have the details covered later in a discussion with you? I might put this information into a PowerPoint, then send it to my boss and go over the slides together in more depth later, but someone else might just send a brief version in an email.
Anatomy of the business case.
Either way, a business case for a new or modified role can consist of these sections: a summary, business challenge, the role value and definition, your qualifications, cost, risk, and the proposed transition plan.
So the first thing you need to do as part of your business case is good to always start with a summary, including the what and the why. An example would be, I'm seeking to transition from my current position as a client services manager to a more data-centric role that could help to streamline the process of data requests across the company.
Then describe the business challenge you're trying to solve for with this role. This is where the bulk of your effort should be spent and tapping into that business need you explored earlier.
Business challenge.
You want to answer the questions: what business need or gap does this new role fill? And what data supports that? This will have a quantifiable impact. Our example is, currently, every team member must run daily data queries for client outreach. This requires each person to undergo report training and spend 1 to 2 hours per day pulling reports and formatting them into outreach lists. The issue is that these reports often need to be modified to pull more in-depth information, but not everyone is familiar with writing in SQL to pull these reports for themselves.
Next is role value. In this section, you should provide in-depth research about how this role will have a positive and specific impact on the business. You are basically saying, here is the solution to that business problem.
Role value.
Questions you may want to answer include, how will the job address the business challenge in a direct and measurable way? How can you support the largest audience with your new role or responsibilities? Here's an example. A dedicated resource to pull data reports can increase productivity for the rest of the team and save each person 2 hours per day. This means 16 hours that can be shifted to client outreach. The data-centric role would be able to provide support from multiple teams, including client support, business operations, and marketing.
Role definition.
Then go on to define the role by listing the responsibilities and explaining how it would fit in the overall org structure. An example would be this new role, which would report into the Director of Client Services, would be responsible for pulling data reports, building report dashboards, working closely with the team to understand what data would help them make better business decisions.
Your qualifications.
Now that the role is outlined, you want to talk about why you are the ideal candidate to fill that role. Talk about the skills that you have that are required to complete the duties and how your history and experience with the company has set you up for success. For example, I become the go-to team member for pulling client reports, and I enjoy analyzing the data to see how it can support outreach and growth strategies. I have an in-depth understanding of the best data indexes to use to learn how our customers are using our platform, what value we are providing to them currently, and where we could be providing better service.
Next, in this cost section, you want to identify the costs in terms of finances and time. If you'd need to upskill and take additional classes, certifications, or training, you want to include that information here. Asking your manager for the time or financial resources to upskill is not necessarily a negative. It's just about return on investment. So do your due diligence to provide a specific explanation of the investment in your professional growth.
Cost.
In this example, we include advanced Google Analytics training, which is free, but will cost 4 to 6 hours of time. One thing to note here is that you don't need to include pay as part of these costs, since that will likely be a discussion for later on once you've proved your ability to make an impact in the new role.
Risk.
Then you want to identify if there is any risk involved with modifying your role. Risk can be assessed by how heavily your current team will be impacted by the change in your role. A strong business case should justify the new role will have high impact with a relatively low cost and risk involved. A change with high risk can be justified if there is high business value to be gained from having you fill the new position. An example would be there is low risk involved in transitioning to this role. After calculating the production hours saved, 16 hours per week, I was able to assess that I'd be able to maintain my current client load in the short term while also improving the efficiency of the team.
And finally, touch upon your recommended next steps to transition into the role. Ask for a trial period to test out your theory and see how things go. Just make sure it's realistic. Give yourself enough time for your manager to see results.
Proposed transition.
Questions to consider are, will this be in addition to current responsibilities, or will this replace some or all of your responsibilities? Would your current role need to be backfilled? Would someone else need to step into that position? And to round out our example, we said, I'm requesting a trial period that would allow me to demonstrate the impact this transition would have. If the work is deemed impactful, I would like to transition out of the client-facing role over a period of 4 weeks or over a time determined by the business need. And there you have it. Your business case is ready to be shared.
Now it's time to meet with your manager and present your business case. First thing that you would need to do is schedule a time to talk. For conversations about your career growth, it's best to notify your manager in advance that you want to explore options with your own company. This will allow your manager to prepare beforehand. They may be able to provide some insight before the meeting. Growth conversations are appropriate in one-on-one meetings, performance reviews, or at a standalone meeting requested by you. This should be a conversation, so make sure you aim to schedule at least 45 to 60 minutes for this meeting. There should be enough time to present your business case with time for discussion. Preparing for this meeting is also important. Before entering the meeting, you should be able to clearly articulate what opportunity you are seeking and why you deserve it. If you don't know why, it may be difficult for you to convince others that you're ready for growth. Be prepared to share your career goals. If management doesn't know your goals, they can't help. It's up to you to be very clear and open about what you want so that you don't get passed over for opportunities. In these situations, it can be important to manage your expectations. Remember, the goal of this meeting is to inform and to collect information about career growth opportunities. So don't put unnecessary pressure on yourself. Ask for feedback and develop your plan of action. You also want to bring a visual aid. Presenting your business plan with the aid of a visual presentation helps to show your manager that you are professional. You also want to have a copy of your presentation available for your manager, so you're not just reading something to your manager, but they're also able to read along with you and really digest the information that you're presenting. Also, dress the part. I'm a huge advocate for dressing the part. So for this meeting, you want to take it up a notch and do something, a step above your usual work attire. While this is not a formal interview, you are asking your manager to consider you for a new role. So you want to dress the part, and you also want to show that this is something that you're very serious about. Provide demonstrations of your work. To help your manager visualize the impact you can have in a new role, provide demonstrations of the type of work you will be doing. For example, if you want to focus on data, provide examples of reports you built and how they have benefited the team. Setting realistic expectations. So conversations about growing into a new role with your current company can take place over the course of several meetings. It's common for your company to transition you slowly by giving you additional responsibilities in your area of interest. Conversations for growth can take time to go into effect, but if the company is meeting all of your other needs, they can be worth the wait. A definitive answer may come later. It's not common to receive an answer right away when having a conversation about personal growth. It's typical for your manager to have to thoroughly review your business case after your conversation. You might also need to revise your business case to include any gaps in information that surfaced in your meeting. Depending on how far a departure this new role or responsibilities are from your current role, this transition could take months to go into effect. Your manager should not be surprised. So professional development conversations should be ongoing. Your manager should be aware that you're ready for an increase in your responsibilities. If not, it may take longer to prove and explain your readiness for growth. Here's the big thing, which I think when you talk about creating a new role and taking on additional responsibilities, one of the first things that probably comes to mind is salary, a salary increase. So keep in mind that salary review may come later. You should not expect a salary increase just because you asked to take on more responsibilities. An appropriate time to review a salary increase due to a change or increase in responsibilities is after you perform the additional responsibilities for at least 6 months to a year. If you've requested a brand new role, it might also be considered as a lateral move with no compensation adjustment needed. For roles that are completely new to the organization, it may take time for an HR representative to do a compensation review. So these are all things that you need to keep in mind when you're going into this, and you want to make sure that you manage your expectations accordingly. Following up is key, and we'll talk about the best way to do that. It's likely that your manager may not have a definite response for you at the time of your initial meeting. Before the end of the meeting, confirm with your manager when would be an appropriate time for you to follow up. Appropriate follow-up times include your next performance review. It could be your next one-on-one or whatever time your manager designates as appropriate.
Check in on growth progress.
When a time comes, add the agenda item to your standing meeting or send a calendar invite with a note in the description that you would like to check in on the status of your growth conversation.
Get compensated for your work.
If a salary increase was a motivator for taking on different or additional responsibilities, again, it's best to check in with your manager 6 to 12 months after performing the new responsibilities. If a pay increase is not a possibility and you feel like you are no longer being appropriately compensated for the work that you're performing, you may want to consider moving on from the company. You can research salary information for your new role at indeed.com/salaries. Also keep in mind there may be other benefits that you can negotiate. Think about what's important to you, whether it's more paid time off, a flexible work schedule, tuition reimbursement, student loan repayment, stock options, so on and so forth. Do your research to make sure, one, that the options, the things that you really want that you're thinking about negotiating are an option with this particular company. And also you want to do your research around when the company typically issues pay increases. So is that only during merit increase time or performance review season? Does it have to be included in the current budget? Or is it something that the company has to budget for the following year? Does your company have pay bands or salary ranges? If so, where does your new role fall within that range? So make sure you do all of your due diligence and your research around salary before you go into having those discussions.
And I just posted in the chat a link to our Jobcast that entirely focuses on pay negotiation.
Go.indeed.com/pay negotiation.
So if you are interested in learning more about that, check out that workshop.
Move on if necessary.
After the conversation, you might come to the determination that you won't achieve the level of job satisfaction that you were hoping to, whether you were denied the opportunity to grow into a new role or the company is not able to meet your timeline for growth. Parting ways with the company to find new opportunities does not have to be uncomfortable. If you've had honest conversations with your manager about your career goals, they will understand your need to seek growth elsewhere if it's been determined that your company cannot provide you with what you need. You'll be able to include your newly gained skills on your resume to make you a more qualified candidate as you search for new opportunities outside of your current company. All right, so let's make sure to stay connected. There are a few ways that we can keep in touch. One is Instagram. My Instagram handle is Cassandra Talks Careers. Also, Facebook. My Facebook page is Career Talk with Cassandra. I have a website as well. My website address is careertalkwithcassandra.com. And then finally, email. Feel free to email me at info@careertalkwithcassandra.com. It has truly been a pleasure, and I am looking forward to staying connected and happy to answer any questions that you all have.
Q&A.
Thank you, Cassandra. Now let's look at some of the top questions that came in. So the top voted question here: candidates receive higher salary increases when they switch firms. Salary increases for internal job candidates are limited usually to 10 to 13%. What tips do you have to negotiate around that?
So I would say that first, you need to understand what it is that you're looking for with your salary. So it can't just be about, I just want to make more money. You need to make sure that you understand, you're clear about what it is that you want, what amount that you're looking for. And you also want to make sure that that amount is aligned with what the market is paying for that position. So you are right where you typically do make more money coming from the outside in. But if you do your research, and you go in and you have that conversation with your manager or whoever it is that you're negotiating with, and show them that this is what I see that the market is paying, this is what I would like to make, then it makes it easier, for you to get the amount that you're looking for, because you can't, if that's what the market is paying, that's what people are paying for that position, then it's hard to argue that. It also helps to, and not saying that you should do this each time, that you're looking to negotiate your salary, but if you do have some companies that have expressed interest and you may have like some pending offers or something out there, that's always helpful as well, that you could say, this company is prepared to offer me this amount, which is more aligned with what I'm looking for, and then give the company an opportunity to counter.
I just want to emphasize that Indeed has these tools to make those conversations more productive and easier on you, right? So Indeed.com/salaries is one of them, where you can look at all different companies, based on location and roles, and see what they're paying on average, or get a good range there. So you can look at what you might be making at other companies, as well as what you should be making at your own company potentially. And I also just added a link in the chat for our salary calculator tool, which will help find the market value of your role, or the role that you're trying to create potentially as well. So definitely leverage those tools and check out the Jobcast on pay negotiation that I shared.
Salary calculator, go.indeed.com/salary-calculator.
So the next question here is, how do you recommend balancing the new responsibilities you are volunteering for without working overtime to get everything done?
Well, I think that's part of your research when you are creating a new role. So you have to look at your capacity first, right? Like, do I have the capacity to even take on more responsibility? So make sure that you identify that first before you go into, putting together a business case and or proposing a business case, I should say. You don't want to set yourself up for failure. So be sure that you first identify that you have the capacity so that you don't get into a situation where you become unbalanced and overwhelmed and you have to work, overtime to keep up.
Definitely. The one thing you don't want to do with this is take on responsibilities that you can't handle, because the whole point is that you're trying to prove to your manager and other stakeholders that you are capable of the job. So if that ends up hurting your, your normal role, then that's not going to look good for anyone. So I'd say when you're putting together that business case and proposing that, really consider, are there responsibilities that you'll have to offload to take on these new ones? And maybe there's someone else on your team who, has the capacity to take those on. So it's a good idea when you're thinking through this new role, or new responsibilities you're taking on, to talk to your team members and see what they think. I mean, in theory, your new role that you're proposing should help them, by taking some responsibilities maybe off of them or off of the team as a whole. So see if there's a way to kind of finagle your existing responsibilities so that your plate isn't overloaded. The next question here is, because of the impact COVID-19 had on my company, there were salary reductions. How do you navigate salary negotiations when applying for an internal job in this environment? Now, I know we touched upon that a little bit regarding internal versus external moves. But Cassandra, do you have any thoughts on when you're actually applying for an internal posting?
Sure. So I think, one thing to consider is that your company just may not be in a position to offer more money. And I think this just kind of goes back to thinking about other benefits. So remember, there's other things that you can negotiate. So if your company's not really in a position to offer more money, maybe talk to them about, if you want some additional time off or if you want a more flexible schedule. So again, just think about those other benefits until, maybe negotiating something like that until, they're in a position where they can offer more money. I mean, this has affected a lot of companies. My company has been impacted as well, and we had to do compensation freezes. So it may just be, this is just not a good time right now, for more money. And there may just be other, there just may be other benefits that you may want to negotiate.
Definitely that full compensation package is important to think about. And even including professional growth opportunities as part of that compensation package. If you're shifting into a new role or proposing a new role and they can't increase your pay, ask if they'll cover the costs for trainings or certifications, or going to a conference or something like that. That's going to help you grow professionally, even if it's not increasing your actual pay.
That's a good point, because actually, having things to build your resume can set you up for so much more money later or with a different company. So that's an awesome point.
So we have another question here. Currently, I am working on the promotion path, but a new role just opened internally, and I'm interested and believe I'm a good candidate, but it will be a lateral move and not likely to get a big compensation increase as the promotion. What would be your recommendations?
Well, it sounds like you're really interested in the role and the opportunity itself. If compensation is not really a factor for you, and it's more about the opportunity, I would definitely say to pursue it. And who knows what might happen later if you get into that position and you really do a good job. And improve yourself, then, compensation could come later. I wouldn't completely rule it out because it's not available right now. So there's always that possibility for it to happen later. But if not, it sounds like it's going to be a really great opportunity for you. So even if it doesn't work out and you get more compensation in this position, maybe, it could come later through another opportunity with another company.
Yeah, lateral moves are tricky. I can speak from experience on this one. Actually, had a very similar experience at Indeed, where I was in a certain role and I was ready to be promoted, on track to be promoted. But I realized that you have to think about the long-term career path that role and being promoted within that role would put you on. So if this lateral move to a new position puts you on a different path that is more fit with your vision of what you want your career to look like, then it's probably worthwhile to make that lateral move, even if it pushes back your promotion by a couple of years. I can tell you, like I said, from experience, I did just that. I shifted into the role on the job seeker experience team, which is my role now. And I did that because, I thought back to those topics we discussed earlier in the presentation, what are your strengths and what are your motivations? And I realized, I'm being motivated by wanting to help people and have a direct impact on our job seekers and really feel our mission of helping people get jobs at Indeed. And the fact that the new role that I was interested in would put me on the path to do just that made it worthwhile. The compensation increase didn't happen right away, but with enough time in that role, I was on a similar promotion path and was able to get the promotion. So I'd say if that new role, even if it's just a lateral move, is going to put you on the right path compared to where you are now, go for it. And we'll do one more question here. Let's see. Can you help to define what is a strong relationship with your manager? What does that look like, and how can we describe it?
Sure. I would say that a strong relationship with your manager would be where you can have an honest conversation with your manager. You can be transparent about what it is that you want and you need from your career. Being able to comfortably talk about career growth, compensation, typically things that are uncomfortable. Like I hear a lot of people talk about it, they dread bringing up salary or walk on eggshells to talk about moving up, in the company, just because they're not sure what's appropriate and what's inappropriate. If you have a good relationship with your boss, those conversations should be pretty easy. So I would say if you feel comfortable where you can talk about your performance, it doesn't have to be maybe some people may mistake when we say having a good relationship, always talking about like personal things. It doesn't necessarily have to be that. You can still have a good, keep your personal life separate and still have a good relationship with your manager. It could be a very professional relationship, just somebody that you can be honest with, that you trust, and that you feel has trust in you as well. That you can just have open and honest conversations with. So I think, if you feel that way and you're in that place with your manager, I would say that you have a pretty good relationship.
Yeah, and I'd add just, when trying to assess your relationship with your manager, you could maybe ask yourself the question, do I feel like my manager has my best interests and my career development in mind when they're making decisions? Especially decisions that will impact me and my growth. So just making sure that, you're able to have those conversations and you feel like there's like they're receiving that information from you, that they get where you're coming from, and you're able to have that two-way communication. You can also assess if you have a good relationship with your manager by what they're telling you, right? Do you feel like they are giving you honest feedback, positive and negative feedback? That will help indicate that, they're really dedicated to your growth as well. So that is all the time we have for questions. But if you found this to be helpful, check out our other Jobcasts at indeed.com/jobcast. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below.
Text Jobcast by Indeed